Hello, and welcome to my new preview of World of Tanks. Today we're going to take the JAGDPANZER E100 under the loop. There was a time when seeing this tank on the battlefield meant one thing. Fear, not respect, not caution, pure fear. The JAGDPANZER E100 was once one of the most terrifying tank destroyers in all of World of Tanks. One shot could erase half your HP. One bounce against its armor could destroy your confidence, and one mistake against this monster meant instant death. But today, most players call it outdated, slow, power crept, even bad. So what happened? Did the JAGDPANZER E100 become weaker? Or did World of Tanks evolve around it and leave this legend behind? Today, we're diving into the rise and fall of one of the most iconic tank destroyers ever created. Welcome back to HELLFISH. The first thing everyone remembers about the JAGDPANZER E100 is that gun, a gigantic 17-centimeter cannon capable of delivering over 1,000 damage in a single shot. Back in the old days of World of Tanks, this was insanity. Most tanks simply could not trade against it. You peeked a corner, half your HP disappeared. You pushed aggressively, you got punished instantly. The JAGDPANZER E100 wasn't just dangerous. It controlled entire sections of the map through psychological pressure alone. Players were scared to peek, scared to push, scared to make mistakes, because this tank punished mistakes harder than almost anything else in the game. And when you combine that alpha damage with its terrifying heat penetration, even heavy tanks weren't safe. Back then, armor actually mattered, and penetrating heavily armored tanks consistently was a huge advantage. The JAGDPANZER E100 could destroy almost anything standing in front of it. But the gun wasn't the only reason this vehicle became legendary. Its armor was terrifying too, especially for its era. The superstructure was massive, thick, and intimidating. The upper plate could bounce huge amounts of damage when angled correctly, and side scraping with this thing? Absolutely disgusting. Back in older World of Tanks versions, premium ammunition was far less common. Players used standard rounds most of the time. Weak spots were less understood, and map knowledge wasn't nearly as advanced as today. So what happened? People bounced constantly. Lower tier tanks had almost no chance against it. Even tier 10 players sometimes struggled to penetrate it reliably. The JAGDPANZER E100 felt less like a tank destroyer and more like a moving fortress, a giant armored bunker carrying an artillery cannon. And when experienced players mastered its armor angling, this machine became a nightmare to fight against. But here's something many newer players don't fully understand. Old World of Tanks was slower, much slower. Medium tanks were less mobile. Autoloaders were rarer. Turbo equipment didn't exist. And aggressive flanking happened less often. This environment was perfect for the JAGDPANZER E100 because the tank has one massive weakness: mobility. It's huge, heavy, slow to reposition, slow to react. But in older versions of the game, that didn't matter nearly as much. The JAGDPANZER could slowly move into position, lock down a lane, and completely stop enemy pushes. Maps were more predictable, battles were more methodical, and this tank thrived in that environment, especially in city maps: Himmelsdorf, Ruinberg, Ensk. These maps turned the JAGDPANZER E100 into an execution machine. Peek, shoot, delete someone, repeat. And now in a short clip we see that this don't matter anymore. Once you take a shot, they rush to kill you. Reload time is too long. But then, World of Tanks started changing, and slowly, the JAGDPANZER E100 started losing its throne. Not because it suddenly became terrible overnight, but because everything around it evolved. And this is where the downfall began. New tank destroyers entered the game. Faster tank destroyers. More accurate tank destroyers. Tank destroyers with stronger armor profiles. Better flexibility. Better gun handling. Better survivability. The JAGDPANZER E100 suddenly wasn't special anymore. Tanks like T110E3, Object 268 version, Hori, Minotauro, started dominating modern battles. These vehicles could reposition faster, play hull down better, survive longer, punish mistakes more consistently. Meanwhile, the JAGDPANZER E100 stayed the same. Still massive, still slow, still vulnerable to flanking, still suffering from poor gun handling. And over time, players stopped fearing it. This might be the biggest reason why the tank struggles today. Premium ammunition. Years ago, armor was incredibly valuable. Today, almost everybody fires gold rounds. And modern premium ammunition penetration values are insane. 330 penetration heat rounds are common now. Some tanks go even higher. That means the JAGDPANZER's armor no longer feels invincible. Weak spots get penetrated consistently. Lower plate, easy target. Superstructure cheeks, punishable. Side scraping, less reliable than before. The armor that once made this tank legendary now feels unreliable against experienced players. And when your armor stops protecting you, all your weaknesses suddenly become exposed. And then we arrive at another painful truth. The gun aged badly. Yes, the alpha damage is still terrifying. Landing a 1000 damage shot still feels amazing. But modern world of tanks rewards consistency, and the JAGDPANZER E100 is not consistent. The aim time is slow, the dispersion can troll you badly, the reload is punishing, and if you miss, modern tanks will punish you immediately. Back in older versions of the game, players accepted inaccurate guns. Today, players expect laser accuracy. So, while the JAGDPANZER still has huge alpha, it often feels frustrating compared to newer vehicles, especially on open maps, especially against mobile enemies, especially in fast-paced battles. Modern world of tanks revolves around hull-down gameplay. Turret armor dominates the meta. Gun depression matters more than ever. Ridgelines control battles, and unfortunately, the JAGDPANZER E100 struggles massively here. No turret, limited gun depression, gigantic lower plate, huge silhouette. This forces the tank into awkward positions constantly. Meanwhile, modern heavies can sit hull down nearly invulnerable, while the JAGDPANZER struggles to even get shots. The game evolved into a style that directly counters vehicles like this, and that hurts its performance enormously.
Enemy armor is
Despite
damaged.
all of this, people still love the JAGDPANZER E100. Why? Because no other tank feels like this. The sound of the gun, the fear factor, the alpha damage, the armor, the pure brutality. This tank still creates moments modern vehicles simply cannot replicate. When you land that perfect shot, when you erase a full HP enemy, when you block an entire push alone, the JAGDPANZER E100 still feels legendary. Not because it's overpowered anymore, but because it represents an older version of World of Tanks, a slower, more brutal, more psychological version of the game. And maybe that's why so many veteran players still respect it, not for what it is now, but for what it once was. The JAGDPANZER E100 did not suddenly become weak. World of Tanks changed around it. The game became faster, more aggressive, more mobile, more gold ammo focused, and the old titans simply couldn't keep up. But legends are not remembered because they stay meta forever. They're remembered because they defined an era. And the JAGDPANZER E-100 absolutely did that. This tank once ruled the battlefield through fear alone. And even today, when that massive cannon fires, you still feel a piece of that old legend. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more World of Tanks reviews, legendary tank breakdowns, and battlefield stories. And tell me in the comments, do you think the JAGDPANZER E-100 deserves a buff? Or should legends remain in the past? This was HELLFISH, and I'll see you on the battlefield.